Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another IEEE-USA webinar, Work-Life Balance and Stress Management. I'm your host, Jonathan Cho. Our presenter for today is Carmen Osborne. Carmen has been helping individuals and companies achieve the highest vision of themselves for the past 20 years. Her strategic approach and outside-the-box approach to consulting provides robust and comprehensive results. Carmen lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, where she received her Master of Arts degree from Seattle University and her Bachelor of Arts degree from Gonzaga University, before the basketball team was really good. Without further ado, I will now pass it off to our presenter. Welcome, Carmen. We're very excited for what you have in store for our audience today.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to meet with you today. Good afternoon and welcome to Stress Management. We're going to spend about the next hour together talking about how we can mitigate these issues that stress management occurs and really impacts our day-to-day life. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. I really jumped there. But here is our agenda for today. We're going to kick it off and talk about the definition of stress. We hear that word a lot, but what does it really mean? And then we're going to talk about the impact of stress, both the positive and the negative impacts. We're going to discuss our responses to stress and how we can change that. Talk about how we can manage stress that will impact our life balance in a positive way. And then I'm going to take you through a guided stress management exercise. It's quick, it's easy, you can do it anywhere, anytime, and then we'll end with some questions. So we hear this word all the time, stress. What does it really mean though? We talk about it, we read about it, we see it on the internet. People say they're stressed all the time, but what does that really mean? Stress can be defined as our body's natural response to any physical or mental demand that's placed upon us. And it's a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. So this could be a surprising phone call in the middle of the night that wakes you up. It could be being put on the spot by your professor in class asking you a question that you may not know the answer to, or you may not have been paying attention. Physically, it could be putting yourself through a really difficult or strenuous workout. But any of those are examples of how we define stress. When we're stressed, our bodies don't just take it and accept it. We actually try to combat it. And how we combat it is we produce what's called adrenaline. And adrenaline is a chemical that's naturally produced in our body as a response to this stress. And the way that the adrenaline works is it actually causes this internal fight or flight response. And there's 3 stages to that. The first stage of the fight or flight response is called the alarm stage. And this is the initial stage where our central nervous system gets ramped up. Our body is preparing ourselves to either fight or flight. Am I going to stand my ground and fight about this? Or am I going to get the heck out of here and take off? The second step is the resistance stage. And this is the stage where the body attempts to normalize and recover from that initial and elevated alarm stage. Now, the third stage is the exhaustion stage. And the exhaustion stage comes about when the first 2 stages occur repeatedly over time. So if the alarm and the resistance stage keeps continuing, such as when chronic stress occurs, this can actually cause our bodies to feel exhausted and we will begin to break down physically. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that can look like. But before we get to that, I want to let you know about the top 10 stressors. Now, I've done this presentation many times and I always refresh and look at, have these changed? And some of these may jockey for different positions, but really consistently, these are the top 10 life stressors that come up for us. And many of us have experienced at least one of these. The first one is death of a loved one. This can be a tremendous impact on our lives. My grandmother recently passed away and she was 103 years old. She lived an amazing life. And even though she had a great long life, and I knew that it was time for her to pass and her health declined significantly towards the end, it was still very emotional and very impactful for the family to lose her. So death can really impact our lives. The next one is divorce or separation. And divorce can be seen as a type of death. Again, tremendously impacting our lives, uprooting sometimes where we live, where we work, and certainly who we spend our time with on a day-to-day basis. Moving and buying or selling a home definitely can elicit stress for us, right? Same with illness or injury and job loss. Marriage, whether that's planning a wedding, being a newlywed and all of that brings with it, or dealing with in-laws and outlaws, or maybe you're on a second or third marriage. All of those things can be incredibly stressful. Now, with increased financial obligations or decisions involving money, which is the next line there, I believe that you can make an argument that there's a correlation to all of these stressors that are financial, right? Buying a home there's a financial implication of that. Certainly losing a job has significant financial implications. And the next one is retirement. And this one I always chuckle at because people think that when you retire, all your stress goes away, but that doesn't happen. A lot of times it can be incredibly stressful to retire. Think about it. We spend decades working 40 or more hours a week. Some of us work very diligently to attain certain professional titles or work on really great projects that bring us a sense of fulfillment. We develop really strong working relationships with our colleagues. And then all of a sudden one day that all goes away. We're now going from working 40 hours a week to working 0 hours a week. We don't have that important title. We don't have that sense of connection to something greater than ourselves. So retirement can bring its own set of stressors. And then the last two, certainly caring for a family member can be stressful. And then the last one, traumatic events, which could include natural disasters, could be crime, could be violence, could be the pandemic. My clients and I often speak of life events in terms of pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? COVID was an incredibly stressful event that impacted our entire world. But even more recently, with the bridge collapse in Baltimore, again, very stressful event, very traumatic. Now, if you're a student, you got a whole nother level of stress. Notice being a student was not on that previous slide because being a student adds another layer on top of regular life stresses. And this slide illustrates how stressed you guys might be. So if we look at this graph starting at 12 o'clock, you can see, it's kind of small there. I'll read that for you. Students who report no stress, very, very small, right? 2.4%. Less than average stress, little bit more, but again, those two combined comprises only about 8% of that graph there. 33.1% of students report that they are stressed about average. And then as we move clockwise around this graph, we can see that more than average is 45.1%, and then tremendous stress is 12.7%. So if we combine students that report they are stressed more than average or tremendously stressed, that's 58% of students. So if you are sitting here feeling like that is me, you are not alone. Okay, but we are going to talk about how we can help to reduce your stress, hopefully. But want to just acknowledge that being a student can be incredibly stressful. And I've got a couple of studies to share with you about this. The National College Health Assessment Research Survey released in 2019 stated that the majority of undergrads reported stress and anxiety as top major factors that affected their academic performance in a negative fashion. So students not only have to deal with a bigger academic workload, they're expected to function socially, plan financially, and deal with sometimes living in a different city than where they grew up from. They moved to a different city for schooling, right? So 40% of college students admit to feeling inadequately rested 5 out of the 7 days a week. So sleep has a direct correlation to being a student and feeling stressed. 1 in 4 college students indicate that lack of sleep has affected their academic performance in a negative way, either in a lower grade, missing a project or a deadline, or even having to withdraw from a class. Students who sleep 6 or fewer hours a night have a lower GPA than students who sleep 7 or more hours a night. And 40% of college students take naps, which is great, but nappers tend to sleep less in total than non-nappers. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you can get a nap in during the day, if you're not feeling well rested, I highly recommend and encourage you to do so. When I was in college, I used to go into the library and find an area where I could just park and set a timer for 15 minutes and take a quick nap. It really helped to refresh and recharge me and get me through my day. But I want to emphasize napping is not a replacement for getting a good quality night's sleep. So is all stress bad? No, not all stress is bad. We actually can have moderate levels of stress that can improve our performance, our focus, motivate us, and create greater efficiency. Now, on one side of the spectrum, too little stress really causes a lot of boredom. And you actually might know somebody like this. They don't have anything going on in their lives. And so they need to get into maybe your life or somebody else's life because they don't have any stress. They're bored. They're looking for something. On the other end of the spectrum, that's bad too. Too much stress is not healthy for us because it creates a lot of anxiety and can manifest itself physically into illness, disease, or chronic illnesses. But not all stress is the same. Some of the stress that we face in life can be more detrimental to our well-being, and some types of stress can actually be really beneficial for us and be healthy. One type of stress that is beneficial is listed on this slide, and it's called eustress. Eu is a Greek word meaning good, so it actually means a good kind of stress. Eustress refers to stress that leads to a positive response. It's the opposite of distress and can refer to any type of beneficial stress, whether it's physical or psychological. Eustress tends to be short-term and it feels exciting. We anticipate it. It's manageable. It's motivating. We look forward to it. Physically, eustress can resemble distress in a lot of ways. You might feel nervous. Your palms might be sweaty. Your heart might pound. Your thoughts race. The difference is really in how we physically perceive these sensations. With distress, we feel uncomfortable. We don't like it. We want to get out of the situation. We feel overwhelmed. With eustress, you actually feel a sense of anticipation and excitement. And like I said, you look forward to whatever is coming. Eustress can be really beneficial and is actually necessary for overall well-being. It's a type of positive stress that can really contribute to our feelings of optimism and excitement about life. So let's take a look at some examples of what this eustress good stress might look like. So as we mentioned, it's associated with positive outcomes. The first one listed here is life changes. So major life transitions can create eustress. And examples of changes that create this type of beneficial stress include graduating from college. Some of you might be looking forward to that soon. Starting a new job or starting a new relationship. It's exciting. You're looking forward to it, right? The next one is smaller changes or smaller challenges. And this could be something like going on a roller coaster ride. You're looking forward to it. It's a new theme park or it's a new ride you haven't been on or it's a favorite one. Could be going to a scary movie. Could be going to an escape room with your friends. Those are all examples of just small changes or smaller challenges. Even training for a triathlon could fall under this example. And then the last one is new experiences. Now, I love to talk about traveling as a great example of new experiences. First time going to a different country, right? The first time I went to Mexico, it was amazing. Getting there was a little tough because traveling can be a little uncomfortable flying, if you're waiting for the planes, waiting for your luggage. Being in a new country can be a little discomfort. You don't know the language, can't read the signs, maybe we don't know, we get lost, we don't know where we're going. However, that's small anxiety or small stress, which is why it fits into the eustress, because the excitement of going to Mexico, the excitement of experiencing a different culture, trying new foods, meeting new people, totally overrides any of the anxiety that we're feeling. So any new experiences would fall under this strategy for the good stress of eustress. So eustress is often thought as a beneficial type of stress because it positively impacts our life. However, it's really important to remember that eustress can become distress if it happens repeatedly or prolonged or it's too intense. So we want to make sure that when we recognize it's eustress, we acknowledge it, and we want to keep the eustress in balance. It helps us concentrate and focus. It helps to encourage you to take on new challenges. It motivates you to pursue your goals, right? Gosh, I'm really afraid, but I have been wanting to achieve this goal my whole life. And so, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm not going to let the fear hold me back. It helps you to feel more resilient in the face of challenges. And it can give meaning and purpose to your life, as well as to help you feel healthier and happier overall. So it's really important that when we recognize stress, we identify what kind of stress are we experiencing here. Is it eustress? Is it distress, or is it a threat? Is it a challenge? Threats tend to elicit a greater stress response and create greater levels of anxiety, while challenges are viewed as exciting, even enjoyable to overcome. Threats are scary, challenges are opportunities. Opportunities to prove yourself and learn how much you can accomplish when you really apply yourself. So this understanding can really help you to identify and evaluate the stressors in your life and see them as challenges rather than threats. There's a couple of strategies that we can employ to help us to really shift that mindset from this is a threat to this is a challenge. And the first strategy is using positive self-talk. When we talk to ourselves, guys, our brains believe what we say. If we say something positive, it's true. If we say something negative, our brain also thinks that is true. So it's so important to make sure when we're engaging in self-talk, it is positive. Positive self-talk helps change how we talk to ourselves by saying, this is not a threat. This is actually a challenge. And I believe that I can respond to this challenge in a positive way. So we want to make an effort to tell yourself these are challenges you can overcome. The second strategy is focus on what you can control. It can be helpful to focus on the resources you have at hand to handle the challenges. When you focus on what you can control rather than what might go wrong, it can help you to feel very positive about the challenges that you face. I like to tell my clients, control the controllables, right? We have very little control over what happens externally, but we 100% have control over how we react and how we respond and how we show up. So we want to make sure that we are doing that in a positive way. And then the third one is adjust your mindset. When you work on shifting your mindset and approaching stress as a challenge, whenever possible, you use the challenges with greater resilience. Resilience can be like a muscle. You can actually grow and develop your ability to be resilient by practicing it over and over. Now, eustress doesn't generally carry the same type of damage as chronic stress. We're going to talk about chronic stress in a little bit. Chronic stress is persistent. It's that long-lasting stress. It can be emotionally draining, psychologically draining, physically, it can impact us. It's the most harmful to our health and well-being. However, remember, too much eustress can still tax our system and edge over into distress. If we feel overloaded and stressed too much, now we're getting out of eustress, we're heading into distress. We're not allowing ourselves enough time to return to a relaxed state and have a healthy balance of restorative downtime. So balance is really essential here. A certain amount of eustress can help you feel happier, boost your well-being, but too much is going to mean you're not paying attention to important areas. You're neglecting those areas of your life, including self-care and relaxation. So when you change your perspective, it can help with stress management, but it's not the only strategy that should be used. If you have too many challenges in your life, even eustress can become chronic stress and lead to burnout. Burnout or worse, really. So some ways to deal with this are listed on this slide here. Being mindful of limitations and work to maintain balance in your life. Cutting out any unnecessary obligations, particularly ones you don't enjoy. Really want to challenge you guys to take a look at this one and think about, are there things I'm engaging in my life that really don't serve me well and I don't really want to do them anymore, but maybe I feel obligated to do them. Maybe there's an opportunity to take a step back and say, I need to make some changes, and this is one of the changes I'm going to make. Adopting some resilience promoting habits that can help you be less reactive to overall stress. And then becoming comfortable with saying no to new activities that truly do not serve you. Saying no is a complete sentence. It is a way of self-care, and it is okay to say. So we talked about eustress. Let's talk about distress. We mentioned that eustress is perceived as positive and beneficial, while distress is associated with negative outcomes. Eustress really helps us to be intentional and focus and motivate us to take on new challenges with excitement, while distress, we're not excited about taking on those new challenges. We dread them. It can lead to anxiety, fear, and other negative emotions. So let's talk about when eustress edges over now and it turns bad. I mentioned earlier that eustress can turn to distress if it's too intense or if it persists for too long. For example, riding a roller coaster one time, super fun. Riding a roller coaster 10 times, maybe not so fun, right? So eustress can also turn to distress if it involves engaging in any risky behavior like not following safety procedures or, things like that. So we talked about life stressors. Let's talk about some stress indicators now. So when we speak about stress indicators, what we're talking about are situations, activities, and relationships that cause trauma to our physical, emotional, or psychological self. And this slide gives us some examples of what stress indicators look like. And you notice at the top of this list is school. School can definitely be a stress indicator. Deadlines, needing to achieve a certain number of credits in a limited amount of time can be very stressful. Work can be a stress indicator. A difficult boss, a new boss, a difficult coworker, a big challenge that we need to tackle at work. Family can be definitely a source of stress for us, as well as relationships that aren't familial. Our finances, money is very emotional. It can be very stressful. Remember, a lot of these were on the top stressors that we talked about earlier. Legal issues can be a stress indicator. Health issues obviously can be a stress indicator. And health issues actually can set up this destructive cycle where we're unhealthy, we engage in unhealthy behaviors, which leads to stress, which leads to chronic stress, which leads to physical manifestations. And the rest, our living environment, our living situation, and our environment definitely can have an impact on our stress. And of course, the last one, politics. It is an election year, and that is all I'm going to say about that one. So when stress manifests itself, this is how it shows up: physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and financially. How does it show up physically? Well, we mentioned high blood pressure. That can lead to hypertension. That can lead to heart disease. Heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States right now. It's very, very difficult when we have high blood pressure to, attempt to mitigate these things so we don't edge into physical disease like heart disease. But it can also be something as small as, I'm too stressed out to go to the gym today, so I'd rather go have a glass of wine instead, or a bottle of wine because I'm really stressed, which then can set up this self-deprecating prophecy of, I'm too stressed to go to the gym, so instead I'm going to go out with my friends, then I'm going to stay out too late, then I'm going to be tired tomorrow, I'm not going to want to work out, I'm definitely not going to want to eat healthy. The mental impact of stress, it can involve playing negative tapes. Earlier, I mentioned what we tell ourselves we believe. So if you have that ruminative thinking in your brain that's negative, I really want to encourage you to turn that around to some positive self-talk. That negative self-talk adds to our stress and really is destructive. The emotional impact of stress, we can be more irritable, we can be more angry, we have a short fuse, we can be more quick to cry, we can definitely worry extensively. 75% of what we worry about never happens. Think about that. 75% of what we worry about will never happen. I had this happen to me 2 weeks ago when I needed to have a conversation with someone and I was dreading it. And I was also working on this presentation, which helped motivate me to have the conversation. I was dreading having the conversation with a client because I wasn't sure what the outcome was going to be, but I was pretty sure it was going to be negative. And so I told myself that's what the outcome was going to be, which caused me to delay having that conversation by about a day or two, but still it was delayed. And let me tell you, once I had the conversation, the outcome was nothing like I thought it was going to be. It was completely opposite, and it was very positive. So again, I thought about it. It never happened. I like to employ the rule of 6 when it comes to worrying. And the way the rule of 6 works is you ask yourself, will this matter to me in 6 days? And then you think about it. And then you ask yourself, will this matter to me in 6 weeks? And think about it. And then you ask yourself, will this matter in 6 months? Asking those questions can really help us take a step back and determine, is this something I really need to be focusing on right now in a negative way? Psychologically, I mentioned the emotion. We can also have sleeping issues, insomnia, fatigue, memory loss, concentration loss, feeling a loss of control. And then financially, we can make impulse purchases because I'm stressed and I really want to buy those shoes, or I really want to buy that expensive thing and I don't have the money, but I'm just going to charge it because I deserve it because I'm stressed. Okay. When we're stressed, we're not thinking clearly, and we tend to make poor decisions, including poor financial decisions. So we've talked about what stress is. We've talked about good stress, and we've talked about some bad stress. Let's talk about managing stress here, because this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I've listed several ways and tactics to manage stress, and I really want to encourage you to try these on. If they don't work, discard them and try something else. If you try something and find that it works, great. If you want to try a couple of them, even better. So let's go through these. Setting priorities. I actually like to start my day by setting my priorities. I combine the first two. I set my priorities by making a list, and I list the top 3 priorities that I know I need to get done for that day. I'll have other priorities that I'll list below that, but I also know that I'm going to get interrupted during my day. And so as long as I know I have those 3 priorities, and no matter what happens, I need to hit those 3 goals, then I'm focused. I know what I need to do. If I'm able to accomplish more, great. If not, we'll put them on a list for another day. But that really helps level set my day. Now, I put saying no up here twice because I think it bears repeating. No is a complete sentence. That is a way to manage stress when we have too much going on in our lives, and we really need to protect our time by saying no. Eat a healthy diet. This is very important, especially if you're a student. There's a direct connection to our nutrition, to the brain health, and our body energy. So we want to make sure that we're meal planning, we're eating a healthy diet, we're staying away from fast food and sugary drinks, and making sure that we are not only eating healthy, but we are moving our bodies. This is one of my favorite stress management techniques, getting outside. I love to go outside, go for a hike, go paddle boarding, go for a run, practice yoga. That can really help clear your mind and exert your body physically so that your stress level is reduced. Some people like to journal. I encourage my clients to keep a pen and a notepad at the side of their bed. So if they wake up in the middle of the night and they have a great idea, or if they can't go to sleep, they can get those thoughts out of their head onto paper and then go back to get some sleep. They actually make pens nowadays that light up, so you don't have to worry about turning the light on in the middle of the night. So that this is you. Make sure that you get your thoughts down so that you can get them out of your head and get back to your restful sleep. Meditation and prayer is another technique that a lot of people find beneficial. Starting the morning with some meditation or prayer or engaging in this activity throughout the day can really help calm us down. Setting limits is another strategy that we can employ. Fostering healthy relationships. This is critical, especially as a student. You know, you're taking in so much information, you're working on so many things. It's so important to have people on your team or have your tribe around you that can lift you up, help you remember why you're doing this when things get tough, and encourage you along the way. Have a sense of humor is another one of my favorites. I always encourage my clients to have a healthy sense of humor because sometimes we need to laugh about things. Life is tough, so we need to make sure that we're having a healthy sense of humor about it. And then volunteering. Sometimes you can gain a great satisfaction and sense of community, sense of connectedness to giving time and volunteering in your community. This slide lists some other helpful tips. You can break down big tasks into manageable pieces. This is really helpful for me when I have to take on a new project with a new client. I kind of draft out and what I need to do and then help to prioritize what needs to happen in what order. Managing expectations or changing perceptions. This is a technique I often employ with my clients, especially with managing expectations. I'll say, I understand you want A delivered. I can't deliver A, but what I can do is I can deliver B, C, and D. Can we have a conversation and see if we can make something work that's going to be helpful for you? Setting boundaries is another helpful tip, another way to manage your stress level. Setting realistic goals. This is very important. It's great to set stretch goals, but it is so important to set goals that we can hit. Setting realistic goals. I like employing the SMART goal technique for my goals. I will set stretch goals for myself, but 100% of my goals are not stretch goals. I absolutely want to set goals that I know I can hit and some that I think I can hit and then work accordingly. Stop procrastinating. I think this speaks for itself. Procrastinating definitely leads to stress. Schedule time for yourself. This can be really difficult to do, especially as a student. But even if you can carve out 10 or 15 minutes for yourself to go for a walk or read or listen to some music or a podcast, it can really help refresh you. Sometimes talking to someone can be helpful. If you have a friend or a spouse or someone in class, or if your company has an employee assistance program, an EAP program, it can be very beneficial to just get a different perspective. And not compromising your values. Again, making sure that we are engaging in activities that serve us well and that make us feel good, and that we're not compromising on that. And again, that does mean learning to say no. So this slide illustrates the benefits that we receive when we manage our stress in a healthy way. Reducing stress has numerous benefits for both your mental and your physical health. And here's some key advantages. You're going to have an enhanced immune system, which means you're not going to get sick as much. You're not going to be prone to disease as much. Chronic stress weakens our immune system, making us more susceptible to illnesses. When we manage our stress, we strengthen our immune response and we stay healthier. Improve sleep quality. I mentioned that earlier. Sleep is disrupted by stress. When we are stressed, our sleep patterns are significantly impacted, which leads to insomnia or poor sleep quality. When we reduce our stress, we're more likely to fall asleep and stay asleep and have restful sleep. Better digestion. Stress can negatively impact our digestion and actually cause issues like indigestion, bloating, or even irritable bowel syndrome. So when we manage our stress, we reduce the risk of developing these chronic diseases and illnesses, and we really help promote better digestion for ourselves. Enhanced cognitive function. Stress impairs our memory, our concentration, and our decision-making abilities. So when we're able to reduce that stress, our cognitive function is improved. We're able to think clearly. We're able to speak clearly. We're able to perform better. And then positive mood and emotional well-being. We know that stress often leads to anxiety, irritability, mood swings. And so when we practice stress management, we maintain a more positive outlook and emotional balance. So what I'd like to do is take you guys through a quick stress management exercise. It only takes a few minutes. You can do it almost anywhere. You can do it several times a day. The goal is really to provide a reduction in the stress that you currently feel. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is just get comfortable where you're at. Hopefully you're seated somewhere or you're standing somewhere where you can be relaxed. And I'd like you to just do a check-in with your body. Start by rating how stressed you feel right now. Think about that on a scale of 1 to 10. Identify a number. And then what I'd like you to do is write it down. You don't have to share it with me, but make sure that you just write it down. And then you're going to get comfortable. Hopefully you're sitting comfortably in a chair. And I want you to just relax your muscles. And you're going to take an inhale through your nose and you're going to exhale through your mouth. Okay, take another deep, slow breath. Inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Good. Now bring your shoulders up and down and continue inhaling through your nose and out your mouth. Good. Okay, now I want you to take your hands behind your head and just gently tilt your head forward slowly. Be careful not to create any pain in your neck. And remember to still breathe. And then we're gently going to tilt that head back as far as you can and take a deep breath in and exhale through the mouth. Good. Now we're going to tilt your head over to the left. If you'd like, you can place your left hand above your ear. Be careful that you don't create pain in your neck here. And we're going to take another inhale through the nose and exhale. And we're going to switch sides and do the same thing on the right-hand side. Inhale and exhale. Nice work. Okay, now it's going to get a little silly. We're going to start shaking our arm. I want you to just shake your arm, let it get all floppy. Careful that you don't hit it on the desk or a table or a chair. Just shake it. Keep breathing. Nice work. That's it. Now you're going to do the same thing with your right arm. Just shake it out. Shake a, shake a, shake a. Get jiggly. Just get jiggly and silly. Feel all that stress just getting shook off your arm. Nice. Now, if you can, what I'd like you to do is stand up. And if you have a chair nearby, you're going to do the same thing with your leg that you did with your arm. Just shake it. Let it get all jiggly. That's okay. Laugh at me and make fun of me if you want to. It's all right. I don't care. Shake a, shake a, shake a. Now do the same thing with that right leg. Just shake it out. Shake a, shake a, shake a. Make sure you got your balance there and make sure you're continuing to breathe. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Okay, now I want you to stand straight and tall. Really ground your feet into the floor. I want you to just straighten yourself up and breathe. Hold yourself tall and straight. And you're just going to take one inhale up as your arms go up above your head. Take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Good. Do one more for me. Inhale as you bring your arms up. Inhale. Deep breath. Hold it. And exhale. Nice work, you guys. Come on back to your chair and have a seat. Roll your shoulders back a little bit. Good. Now check in. How do you feel? On a scale of 1 to 10, where is your stress level at? Write it down. Now look at your initial number and look at your second number. Did it go down? I hope it did. So that's one technique. Like I said, very quick and very easy. Let me know what you think of it. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't enjoy it, if your stress level went down, hopefully it didn't go up. And I really want to encourage you all to seek out techniques that are going to work for you. Like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So really, I want to challenge you to find stress-reducing techniques that are going to work for you and share those. I'm going to end our presentation today with a quote for you all. I will breathe. I will think of solutions. I will not let my worry control me. I will not let my stress level break me. I will breathe and it will be okay because I don't quit. I know none of you are going to quit. I want to thank you all for being a part of the presentation today. I see Jonathan is back with us. Thank you, Jonathan. I think you're going to walk us through some questions now.
Yes, and fantastic. Thank you so much, Carmen. So folks, we are at the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please post your comments, please post your questions in the comment section or live chat section, and we'll load them on the stream for Carmen to answer. So Carmen, before we get to our audience member questions, I did have a few that I would like to ask you first.
Great.
And let me see if I can access them. So my first question, you went over a lot of stressors earlier in the presentation. You also mentioned that work, along with school, work I think was the second top most stressful environment a reported environment. So my question, what are some common signs and symptoms of stress in the workplace, and how can we identify them?
That's a great question. So certainly doing a self check, kind of like we did with that exercise. If you feel your breath getting shallow, that's the number one sign that we know that stress is coming on. Um, Many of us are shallow breathers. We breathe from our chest when we really want to breathe from our diaphragm. So if you feel that tightness in your chest, that shortness of breath, like you've got racing thoughts, you're not able to stay focused on things. Those are very strong indicators that there is stress in the workplace. Sometimes it's when we get around people, right? And when I'm around this certain person, or gosh, my boss really stresses me out. It's really important that we get in tune with ourselves so that we can identify how does this happen? When does this happen? So that we can then get, employ strategies to reduce the stress.
Mhm. Fantastic, thank you. So we did actually receive an question from our audience. Todd asked, or he starts off by saying, "I was going to stop procrastinating tomorrow, but decided to put it off until later because I'm planning on being spontaneous tomorrow. How am I doing on my sense of humor?" Well, I think you got it down, Todd. Thanks for letting us know.
That's a great one, Todd. Thank you. Great sense of humor. I love it.
And while we're still waiting on audience members' questions, you know what, they're most of them are probably practicing those stress management exercises that we were doing earlier. Feel free to let us know in the comments section how you feel after testing them out yourselves. So I guess going on. Oh, and from our audience member Ranjit, can I download the webinar to watch again later? So to our audience members, yes, you can't download the webinar, but our webinars will be available on demand after the live stream ends on any of the channels through the links that you accessed earlier. So feel free to watch them at your leisure afterwards and share them to your network. So for my next question. How can individuals create sustainable habits and routines to
Mm,
maintain a healthy work-life balance over the long term? You know,
yeah,
it's easy to start these techniques and then go with it for like a week, think they're fine, or maybe it's not working for them. But I think it's safe to say that a lot of solutions aren't instant solutions, or they you can't achieve instant results. So, any thoughts on that?
absolutely. I think that they say it takes about 6 weeks for an activity to become a habit. So it's practice, practice, practice. Really, it's planning and practicing. If I want to maintain a healthy work life balance, I have to actively engage in that. It is not just going to happen. We all know that, right? So if I need to, there's only 24 hours in a day. So if I
Mhm.
need to plan my day out and there's certain things that I need to make sure that I accomplish, then I'm going to have to plan that out. Same with eating healthy, right? If I want to make sure that I'm eating healthy, I have to make sure that I'm going to the grocery store and I'm buying the right foods that I can cook. Maybe that means meal planning the night before I pack my lunch, so I take my lunch instead of I go out and get the lunch. But it really is employing some repetitive actions so that this really gets imprinted on us. I used to sleep in all the time, and I never had time to work out. So I started getting up early in the morning to work out before work. And it was really tough in the beginning. Many times I wanted to hit the snooze and sleep in, but I kept doing it. And now it just becomes habit. I get up, the alarm goes off. I still have some days when I want to sleep in, but for the most part, I already know the alarm's going off because I got to get up and work out because I got to start my day. That didn't happen overnight. That took a lot of time. So I think allowing yourself some grace and space as you are adopting new healthy habits, you're changing. And change is difficult and it takes time. But if you can make it sustainable, you're going to be so much better off in the long run.
Absolutely, fantastic, thank you. Yeah, practice, practice, practice. Probably the main thing that we always have to do. Our audience member Michael asks, or says, admitting your stress can be perceived as a sign of weakness. Any thoughts
Mm,
on the hyper work culture that's especially pervasive in the US?
yeah,
Really great question.
that's a great question, Michael. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Admitting that we're stressed can be seen as a sign of weakness. And I think that there's a couple of ways that you can address that. You can say, I've got a lot on my plate. A lot of times when I meet with clients, I'll say, I know you want these 10 things accomplished, but let's talk about like, what do you really need done here? And, can we look at 4 and then maybe table the other 6? Or, can we do them in a staggered effect? I really think it's breaking it down and first being honest that we all are chronically human. So life does happen to all of us. And I think admitting that we have a lot going on is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of tremendous capability, but recognizing that we're capable and we have limits. I think when you marry those two together, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of being a human. And you're right. And especially in certain industries, admitting that we're stressed doesn't work. I would say, I don't call it stress. I wouldn't say I'm stressed. I would say I have a lot going on and this is what I'm intending to do, or this is what my plan is. Or maybe you say, I have a lot going on. And if I take on this additional project, what would you like me to table? Because there's only so much I can do. I think that recognizing there is only so much we can do is important. And it's something that sometimes gets overlooked in the workplace to our detriment.
Thanks for the question, Michael. This next question, audience member asks, how can you deal with family stress? Say, for example, caring for an elderly parent or a young child slash baby with significant health issue.
Yeah, caregiver trauma is real. Absolutely. And family stress is that we could do a whole nother presentation, I think, on that.
Hmm.
And I think a couple of things that we talked about are really helpful. Control the controllables. If you have a difficult family member, you're not going to be able to change them. But what you can change is you can change how you react to them and how you respond to them. And sometimes that means how we communicate and how we engage is going to look a little bit different. Uh, but when we talk about caring for a family member who might be elderly or even a young baby, I mean, incredibly stressful. So make sure you have a support system if you are a caregiver. I cannot emphasize this enough because caregivers give so much of themselves that they can really become depleted. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we cannot take care of anybody else. So maybe that involves you have someone that you can go talk to. Maybe you belong to a church or you can talk to a therapist. Maybe you can listen to a podcast that would be helpful, or carving out that little bit of time just for you. Like, I just need to take 10 minutes. I'm just going to go outside for the walk, or I'm going to just go into the restroom if I can't even leave the house and, listen to some music on my phone. Whatever that looks like, and however small or large time increments, it's going to be different for everybody, but I think exploring those types of activities can be really beneficial. And again, if something doesn't work, don't lose heart. Keep exploring and keep trying what works.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. And I really love what you said regarding control the controllables. There are certain things that we don't have control of, but we have a lot more power over certain things than we are usually led to believe, which kind of leads me into this next question. Todd asks, many engineering firms do every project as if the house is on fire. Hmm. It makes for a stress environment that may not be in my control to reduce. Or is it? What can we do company-wise?
Yeah, having that house on fire as part of company culture is very difficult to change. And I wish I had a magic wand answer for that, but that is the reality. And so that is really where we ask ourselves, can I thrive in this environment? Sometimes that's a yes, but sometimes that's a no. And we know that with certain roles, it can be incredibly stressful. So I really want to encourage you to take a look at how you fit in to that larger scheme of things and how your contributions rolls up to the greater organization. There are a lot of things outside of deadlines, outside of control. If there's plans changing. Now we need to go in a different direction. There's a lot that we can't control in that. But again, how we respond to that can actually help our coworkers. If we show up in a way that we're not stressed, yes, the house is on fire, but we're not going to run around like the house is on fire. We're going to be calm and competent. It can actually infuse calmness throughout the coworkers and the group. It may not change the culture because that's incredibly difficult to do and really has to kind of come top down, but at least it can help in the short term on a project, for example.
For sure. And, I mean, we as individuals may not have a whole lot of power over the whole, but I think, like you said, as a group, there is more power as a collective than one single person, especially in a company. So, really great question, Todd. Thanks for that. So we are approaching the end of the hour. I think we're out of questions from the audience members. I just have a couple more questions of my own, Carmen, and then we'll close it off there. So my first one, how important is mindfulness when it comes to
Mhm.
managing stress? Any thoughts?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's really being in tune with ourselves and checking in with our bodies. Not only what are we thinking, but how is our body responding to those thoughts physiologically? How are we feeling? So I think doing a check-in throughout the day, especially when we feel we're getting stressed or we're already in the middle of it, it's really important. Take a step back. What am I feeling right now? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What do I want to do right now? It might be to flee the situation, and that might not be possible, but it's really an opportunity to even just sit calmly and take some deep breaths. There's another stress management exercise where you inhale for 5 seconds, hold for 3, exhale for 5 seconds, really to just calm down and get clear so we can focus on the important things. When we're stressed, we start to get very distracted and we tend to think about things that aren't really germane to what we need to be thinking about. So being mindful, practicing breathing techniques, and getting in tune with how we're feeling is very important.
Fantastic, thank you. And this isn't a question, but an audience member, Robin, chimed in. Todd, I would tell clients deadlines that were due double the amount of hours that the job would take. If I thought it was a 1 week project, I would tell the client that it would be ready in 2 weeks. Really great. Thanks for
Great, Robin. Thank you for that.
participating. Yeah, really great tip. And finally, my last question, Robin. Are there any resources such as books, apps, workshops, or maybe even videos that you may recommend for further exploration of stress management and work-life balance, or just something to calm you down? I know some people
Yeah.
use ASMR videos or alike. Do you have any resources you might be able to give?
Yeah,
Right.
ASMR videos are great. If that's something that you haven't tried yet, I really want to encourage you to explore that. But really, I use a lot of YouTube videos myself. I know that doesn't work for everybody, but I don't necessarily want to recommend anything because it's not necessarily a one size fits all. But
Right.
definitely, if you like podcasts, I want to encourage you. There's some great podcasts out there. There's some great stress techniques on YouTube that can walk you through exercises just like I did, that you can find some are not as silly, some are more silly, but really the goal is to find what works for you. If someone else is doing something that you want to try, maybe you adopt what they're doing and change it a little bit. But really want to encourage everyone to explore stress management techniques that are going to work for you.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, everyone. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I know we could have gone a very long time over this, and depending on feedback from our audience, maybe we could even do a continuation of this in the future as well. Carmen, thank you so much for joining us today and for giving our audience your tips and best practices for stress management and achieving the work-life balance that everyone deserves. We loved having you today.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was my pleasure, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in and for your great questions. If you like the content presented in today's webinar, be sure to check out our other ones. Please like and subscribe to our channels and check back daily on our social media for future live stream updates. We'll see you again next time.
I had the coolest job that any electrical engineer could ever have on the ground crew for Solar Impulse 2, the first solar-powered airplane to fly around the world only using the power of the sun. IEEE-USA has given me a competitive edge because of their support system. It is so much easier doing something and being out of your comfort zone when you have someone there saying, "You got this." IEEE-USA is more than just a network. It's a family.